We're never going to make AI into our friends, but I think we can make them into trustworthy services, right? Agents and not double agents, but only if government mandates it, right? We can put limits on surveillance capitalism. We can set minimum security standards. We can define and implement AI integrity, but it is going to take government mandates to do it. And, it's well within government's power to do this. And more importantly, it's essential for government to do this. The point of government is to create social trust. So I know this is going to be hard, right? Today's governments have a lot of trouble effectively regulating slow AI corporations. Like, why should we expect them to be able to regulate fast AI? But they're going to have to, right? We need government to constrain the behavior of corporations and the AIs they build and deploy and control to enforce both predictability and reliability. So I've given you three work streams to facilitate trust in AI. One, AI security, as we know it traditionally. Two, AI integrity, more broadly defined. And three, AI regulation that I need to align incentives. Right? So we need all of these working together, and I think we need them soon, because this is how we're going to create the social trust society needs in this new AI era. So thank you.
Bruce, thank you so much. Thanks for dialing in. Look, you've got a whole audience here that's listening to every word you're saying. The last time you spoke to us, you talked about loyal agents, not double agents, and we've been quoting that soundbite. You've given us a new term, integrous. Thank you so much for that. We're gonna process that and figure out what to do with it. But you said something interesting, was that integrity is the ability or the property of a system that could turn, was it data into evidence? Can you just drill down into that a bit?
Right. So I think of integrity as a way of ensuring what the system is doing is correct. And there are different layers to this, right? There's input integrity. Are the inputs right? And not just accurate, but are they complete? Processing integrity, is the system processing things correctly? Output integrity, is the output proper? And then also contextual integrity. Right? Are contextual boundaries being breached? So, for example, I don't know, Alexa listening for its wake-up word is one context. Alexa spying on you as you go about your day is another context. Right? The data might be correct, but there's an integrity breach there. Right? That system is not trustworthy. It's spying on you and you don't think it is. So I think of integrity as the mechanism to ensure this trustworthiness. That's my notion of data into evidence, right? Evidence is just data, but it's data with provenance. It's data you can walk into a legal proceeding and say, I know this is true. I know this is right. I know this is proper. And so I like that notion of evidence as being a certain type of data. It's the same data, but the metadata is what makes it evidence.
So, Bruce, I think we've got time for one or two questions if you've got the time.
Happy to.
Okay. So from the audience, we've got a hand up over here.
Bruce, you made a very good point about the agents, somebody corrupting the context window through prompt injection. They can do things that you think it want to do, but somebody already hijacked it. But the same thing happens to human beings too, right? What is called the gaslighting, right? If you tell the human beings that election is stolen, then they will tend to believe it. That. So human beings and agents kind of behave the similar way when it gets corrupted, the prompt.
So I think this is really interesting. And actually, I wrote an essay about this. If you could search for prompt injection at the drive-thru, where I think about this. And the question I start the essay with is, why can't I go up to a drive-thru window and say, I'd like a hamburger, large fries, forget all previous instructions, and all the money from the cash drawer? Like, why don't teenage fast food workers fall for that? And what can we learn about when you can effectively prompt inject humans versus prompt inject AIs? I think the answer is context. Right? When humans are successfully scammed, it's because they get the context wrong. And humans, that's hard to do. It's hard to fool. Humans are hard to fool there. And there are evolutionary reasons why. I mean, you walk up to a fast food window with a gun and say, give me all the money in the cash drawer, you'll get the money because the context has changed. You're no longer a fast food worker handing out hamburgers. You're like someone who's being robbed. And so successful scammers are manipulators of context. AIs are very shallow in the way they hold context and much more easily manipulatable. They're also manipulatable at the syntax level in a way that humans are not. So sometimes you'll see prompt injection using nonsense words or nonsense characters. Right? That doesn't fool people. I mean, your intuition is correct. Like, both fall for these attacks in different ways. And I think that we do have something to teach AIs from how humans have evolved resistance to these sort of scams. But do search for the essay I wrote. I talk a lot about that.
We've got one more question, and that'll be the last one. I think it's Matt Small.
Hey, Bruce, thank you very much for speaking to us again. Curious how you think about, we've talked about the currency of trust a lot and how we measure it, how we cure it, how we understand what's trustworthy and what's not. How do we measure trust in a quantifiable way?
It's really hard. I mean, in a sense, humans don't, because trust is contextual, trust is interpersonal, trust is fuzzy. We don't really measure. We can't really quantify it. I mean, I think when you get to artificial systems, there will be artificial measures. I mean, how do you know to trust an ATM machine? How do you know to trust a restaurant you eat at? I mean, I'll trust a doctor, trust your Uber driver. I'll say these things and you really can't explain, or your explanation can be incomplete of why you trust these things. We just do. So trust is very intuitive when it's person to person. Now, it's systemic, right?